6:17, I'm awake for real this time. 6:24, I'm finally awake now. 6:50, now fully awake. 7:16, I'm awake for the first time. These simple entries are a man's diary, a dense collection of sentences already hundreds of pages long. But even in this moment, there was not a single sentence that he could remember, because the time of memory was limited to 30 seconds. Reading, England, 2005. Deborah is headed to the nursing home where her husband is. It's been a week since they last met. She's joined by Clive Waring. 20 years ago, she was a member of his choir who was conductor at the time. Brought together by music, married to music.
20 years?
I don't know what it's like. I've never seen anything for 20 years.
After just 6 months, they were struck by a blow. Suddenly, Clive felt a terrible headache. Clive clutched his head and fell to the floor and convulsed. He was rushed to the hospital. Numerous tests were performed to find the cause. And a diagnosis of herpes encephalitis, called herpes encephalitis. It was discovered that the virus had traveled from the corners of his mouth, the virus had traveled to the brain, and the virus damaged the hippocampus, causing amnesia. Unfortunately for Clive, unprecedented in the medical community, unprecedented in medical science, retrograde amnesia, the opposite of retrograde amnesia, were going on simultaneously. 20 years ago, from the moment I collapsed, and all the lives before that. I don't remember conducting an orchestra, or my marriage to Deborah, 6 months ago. And the ability to create new memories, to create new memories in the future. His memory lapses no more than 30 seconds. He can't remember what happened a moment ago. He had to spend the next 30 seconds for the next 30 seconds. What's even more cruel, the brain's ability to recognize, that ability left him deeply frustrated. Tears of despair and pain, for 2 months, crouched at the foot of the bed and never stopped crying. Deborah, who was by his side, said, "All I could do was to tell him I loved him." Her fortune was crumbling, her condition worsened, and she was eventually transferred to a psychiatric ward where she would stay for 7 years. Clive's diary entries gave me goosebumps. At 8:40 a.m. I woke up for the first time. 9:10 a.m. I'm now fully awake. 7:47 a.m. This sickness is like death. 9:06 a.m. I'm so awake. Simply repeated sentences. Only the last sentence is when a new memory begins, and even that sentence is forgotten after 30 seconds. Many sentences that have been pushed aside disappeared from memory, piled up in a creepy pile. Hundreds of pages, staring at what he had written. Clyde said, "No day, no night, no dreams. No memory of a single moment of a single moment." Fast forward 20 years later, Clyde is off his medication and moved to a skilled nursing home. With the care of the facility's medical staff and Deborah's dedication, Deborah has regained some of the stability. stability, and some of the smiles she hadn't seen in years. Most of all, Clive is alive. That Clive was alive. That Clive was alive was when Deborah visited him. He had no memory of his marriage. He hugged and kissed her desperately, in a bold display of affection. And when she wasn't around. He left her answering machine a repeated voice, "It's been a long time. Come back soon. Come see me. Come at the speed of light." Clive's memory storehouse, the hippocampus. Clive's storehouse of memories. He still recognized Deborah. Another inexplicable response was the piano. It wasn't a mechanical response. His melodies, his own style and emotion. John Lennon and President Kennedy had never heard of it. "I remember," was the first thing he said, was Bach's Prelude 9 in E major. The emotional moment of sharing music with Deborah, in addition to the damaged hippocampus, in other areas of the brain, besides the damaged hippocampus. Other areas of the brain. The truth is, Deborah was going to stay by her husband's side, but she couldn't bear it. She had dreamed of having children and a normal family. After 8 years of caregiving, she boarded a plane for New York, with a life that could never be restored and the crushing weight of reality. A more painful path, with the weight of an irreparable life and a crushing reality. I had no intention of living in England. I began to write a memoir about her husband. Cloud's life was completely disconnected. No continuity. That's his life. Deborah describes her feelings as endless pain. She wanted to start a new normal family. But I was already in love with someone, and I couldn't do that. I realized that there is nothing more precious than love.
Darling, look, it's Clive here. I don't care about anybody else in the world, just you, please come. Darling, darling, you, darling, can you come and see me, please? I have the clue what's happened, that's all.
She eventually returned to England. Still, the clouds showed her love that never changed, even when everything was taken away. But somewhere in the back of his mind, he never lost his love for Deborah. 20 years have passed. A life without continuity. 30 seconds of life in the cloud can't change. But his wife Deborah believes. One of the 100 billion neurons that determine Clyde's memory is the one that keeps our love to our love. It still does. As of 2024, 40 years later, their love is ongoing. You've been a finding star so far. Please subscribe and like to stay with us.